Hi guys, I'm Gasha. Welcome to the channel and welcome as always to our coffee times to discuss movies and horror. And today I'm here to let you know everything that I watched in the month of May.
It's coffee time.
May has been quite a good month for me. I am in the process of rewatching a franchise for the new release, and I have been trying to catch up on some horror movies that I missed. I'm getting really organized and I'm making like Excel sheet lists of movies that I want to check out because A, I would like to bring more reviews into the channel, and B, I need to watch a lot more movies to bring even more movie video recommendations. So if there's any movies that you would like me specifically to review, watch, whatever, let me know in the comments down below. And if you're looking for specific movie recommendations for any subgenre of horror, let me know as well down below. Today, as usual, we're gonna take a look at everything that I watched in the month of May, and I'm gonna give you my ratings. We're gonna check Letterboxd and see everything that I watched in May. So first of all, I have a movie called The Stranger. This is a horror B movie, like an indie movie with a very low budget, and I wanted to give it a shot because it sounded interesting. We have a mother and her daughter that are trying to kind of start a new life. They decide to move to the countryside to buy a small house to turn it into a bed and breakfast, kind of like a hotel situation. When they just get there and start getting established in the place, there is a stranger that comes knocking at their door in the middle of the night. The stranger seems to be running from something, and they might all now be in danger. Even though I liked the concept for this film and the darkness that the movie had when it comes to the themes, I didn't think that they exploited that as much as they could have, and there were too many questions that were left unanswered at the end of the movie. But for being, you know, a B movie with a really low budget, I felt like it was worth a watch. Then in preparation for a new Marvel movie, you all know what came out in May, I rewatched Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2. Guardians of the Galaxy for me has been my favorite Marvel now trilogy. I think, you know, for me personally, the Guardians of the Galaxy movies had the perfect mix of action, heart, comedy. They were fun. I just really truly enjoyed them. I love all the characters, and finally we got this year a good Marvel movie again, which is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I really enjoyed the movie. It was not perfect by all means, but I felt like it kept the heart and the spirit of the other two Guardians of the Galaxy. I think James Gunn has managed to create an amazing trilogy with these three films, and still today is, like I said, my favorite from the Marvel franchise. The last couple of years have not been great for Marvel. The thing is, with the last Marvel movies that came out, also with Ant-Man Quantumania, I was bored in the cinema, to be honest. I had a hard time to connect with the characters, and Guardians of the Galaxy has been able to keep the characters like heart, and people care for them, people root for them. We get to see a little bit more of Rocket Raccoon's background in Guardians of the Galaxy 3, so we understand where his character is coming from, because we know a little bit more about where Gamora comes from and where, of course, Star-Lord comes from. We don't know too much about Drax, so I think he needs his own spin-off movie. But I did hear in an interview Dave Bautista saying that this was the last time that he was going to do Drax, so I was a little bit sad because I was hoping maybe he would get his own film or something, because I really like Drax. He's basically my favorite character from Guardians of the Galaxy. But I am quite pleased and happy with how they decided to wrap up the trilogy. Then I finally sat down to watch Glass Onion. I watched Knives Out when it came out in the cinema, and I really love that movie. I had such a good time with it, so I was expecting the same thing from Glass Onion. The only reason why I haven't watched it since it came out is because A, my partner didn't want to watch it, and B, it's a 2-hour long movie, so I need to find a time where my partner is not home so I can watch that longest movie. And I have not really been motivated, to be honest. Finally I watched it, and I have to say I was a little bit disappointed. Definitely did not love it as much as I did Knives Out. Dave Bautista is in the film, so that was a positive for me. But I don't know, I was not as invested as I was trying to figure out the mystery in Knives Out. I felt like in Glass Onion, I was not, you know, so hooked up on the mystery and wowed and surprised by all the twists and turns. Like, it didn't have like such an impact on me anymore as the other one did. But I feel like if you watch Knives Out, you can give this one a watch. Maybe it was just me, maybe it just didn't work for me, but it has a wonderful cast and they all did a good job. I just feel like this particular mystery was just not for me. I also watched a couple of documentaries in the month of May. I tried to watch documentaries here and there. The first one I watched is called Captive Audience, Real American Horror Story. And this one was quite a ride. I was slightly familiar with the story. The story takes us back to the 70s. Steven Steiner was a 7-year-old that disappeared and reappeared again, I believe, when he was 14. It's one of those rare cases where the person that disappears comes back. So he was kidnapped as a kid when he was 7 by a man, and I was familiar with that side of the story. However, the documentary goes a lot further into details of what happened. Plus, it also explains what happened afterwards to Steven Steiner, as well as to his family, his children, and it kind of expands the story. So all of that was extremely interesting to me. If you love true crime stories and you were familiar a little bit like I was with the story, you might want to check this one. The other documentary that I watched, I was really impressed by it because it was a shocking story that I didn't know. It's called Still Missing Morgan, and it is about a little girl that disappeared, and basically there was no trace. There was nowhere to locate her except for a specific type of van that was sighted where she disappeared. And the story is extremely compelling. As you can assume by the title, she still has not been found up to this day. So the documentary kind of goes through what happened, how did she go missing, what other kind of crimes or potential suspects were in the area or were related to children kidnappings in the area, stuff like that. And I thought this documentary was very powerful, very compelling, and I really enjoyed this one. I think it was really well put together. So if you love true crime stories, this is one that I would recommend you. Also in the month of May, you guys, I started my rewatch of Insidious. You guys know there is a new Insidious movie coming out, number 5. I believe it's coming out in July, at least here in the Netherlands it's coming out in July. So we decided to go back to the franchise because I would like to do a ranking video of the 5. So we rewatched the first one, Insidious. I think I've watched this movie maybe 3 times now, and it's one of those movies that I really enjoy, but I'm not absolutely in love with. I think there's other movies that I love more than this one, but it's still a great paranormal horror movie. If you've never seen it, it's now the perfect time to start watching them before the new one comes out. So after watching that, we went to the movies to see Beau is Afraid. This is a new A24 film in the 3rd movie from director Ari Aster, whom we know from Hereditary and Midsommar. Wow, this movie was a 3-hour long journey. It was definitely an adventure. this movie is not going to be for everybody. The movie basically follows Bo, a guy that is very shy, that goes to therapy, that has anxiety, and he is about to go on a journey because he decides to visit his mother. So we follow kind of his journey to get to where his mom lives. But a lot of things are gonna happen in this journey, and we're gonna go through a roller coaster of emotions and strangeness. It is really different from the other movies by Ari Aster. This is perhaps also his most personal film, and I think that was the greatest thing about the movie, but also something that was slightly detrimental to it, because it was so personal that at times it was hard to relate to the whole situation because of all the metaphors the movie has. So yeah, just if you really want to watch this film, just keep in mind that it's all told through metaphors and really weird imagery. So don't expect a movie like Hereditary or Midsommar. I described this one, I think, on my review video as Big Fish but on crack, and I still stand to it. Then I decided to watch a new horror movie called I'll Be Watching, and honestly, I was quite disappointed by this one and quite bored. We follow a woman that is trying to cope with the loss of her sister. Her sister was murdered in her apartment, and so our main character now is scared of being home alone because of that. And her husband decides to go on a business trip. It's really important, he has to go, and decides to leave her alone in the house, which of course gives her a lot of fear and anxiety. But he promises her she will be okay because the house has a very high-tech system, so every lock, everything is protected, and she can call him anytime, anywhere. And there is this computer, you know, this high-tech computer in the house that will help her with anything she needs. And I was kind of expecting a more scary, atmospheric movie with a bit more of flesh to it. It just felt like an empty house. Like they had this idea and they built it all together, but then they forgot to put the furniture in it. So it felt a little bit like an unfinished concept for me. So that's why I didn't enjoy it as much as I hoped. Then I watched another documentary, and this one was disappointing to me. It's called Keep This Between Us, and basically talks about the abuse that some teenagers receive by their teachers, about predators, and about grooming teenagers to have relationships with their teachers. I think the only reason why I did not enjoy this documentary so much is because it was trying to be too aggressive. I understand this is a very sensitive topic, and I understand that there is something really wrong with the educational system, and we are letting grown-ass men take advantage of young impressionable females, and something has to change, and these things need to be talked about. They cannot just be ignored in silence. I completely understand that, and I'm all behind that. But I felt like they were just doing this documentary in such an aggressive way and just like one-sided. And when you do a documentary, you want to make sure that you kind of give the other side a little bit of time. You don't have to be for it, but I felt like this was just too one-sided for me. I like to see all sides of the spectrum. I like to be informed about absolutely everything, get an idea of the whole situation, and I felt like this documentary was just talking to me, telling me this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, and you know, it's not allowing me to see a scenario and think about it and come to my own conclusions. It just felt too aggressive for me. But if you're interested in the topic and to find out more, I think this one I watched on Disney Plus, so that's what I found it here. Then I watched another new release, this time on Netflix, a movie called The Mother. Stars J-Lo, and I wanted to watch this one because I wanted to see J-Lo taking revenge again. I really enjoyed her movie called Enough, and this one kind of gives the same vibe. In this movie, we follow obviously J-Lo that plays the character of an assassin. She has been mixed with the wrong people and she basically wants to escape that life of corruption, but that makes her also a target. She is pregnant and she decides it's the best for the baby if she gives the baby up for adoption, because she is wanted by these two guys that are on top of the mafia. However, these two guys somehow find out that this daughter exists and they try to kidnap her. So that's when J-Lo decides that enough is enough and she's gonna do whatever it's needed to protect her daughter, even though she's never met her. I enjoyed the film. I thought it was a good action movie, nothing extremely original or fresh about it, but I did like J-Lo, you know, reprising the role of the badass revenge assassin, and I did like her dynamic and relationship with her daughter on screen. So after watching The Mother, we rewatched Insidious Chapter 2, another solid entry on the franchise, and one that is really connected to the first one. I think I had forgotten how much the first and the second Insidious movie are related and how important it is to watch them maybe back to back in order to get all the hints and winks to the first movie, because the second one has a lot of parallels with the first one. And then finally, you guys, I was able to watch Infinity Pool. What a trip. This was another adventure. This was another trip for sure. It is a new Brandon Cronenberg movie, so after Possessor, you kind of know what you're getting yourself into. We follow a couple that is at a beautiful retreat on an island. Our main character is a writer that basically only has one book published. He's played by Alexander Skarsgård, and he thinks going to a retreat to an island is going to help him to get some inspiration for his next book. While they are in the retreat, they meet another couple, they become friends, and they decide to go to a trip outside of the walls of this retreat. Leaving the retreat is actually not allowed because of the rules of this island. They have their own specific rules and laws, but they decide to go out anyway, and there is an accident and they find themselves in a pickle, and they have to basically pay for what they did. This movie, you've probably seen already a lot of people talking about it. I don't want to mention way too much because I'm pretty sure that not everybody knows all the plot twists and stuff that happen in the film. It is a psychological horror movie. It kind of explores the power of people that are rich and how many things they can get away with, and how if you would give people maybe the choice of committing crimes and they would not be punished, how far would they go if there will be no punishment, and they know there's not going to be a punishment. This was quite trippy of a movie. I mean, Brandon Cronenberg, I don't think I need to explain much, but I was just fascinated again by Mia Goth. I just love her so much, and she was absolutely amazing in this one. And then it was my partner's birthday, and I suggested we watch Willy's Wonderland. He had never seen the film, and all I can think about when someone has a birthday is the song in the movie. It's your birthday and we want you to have fun. It's your birthday, so let's party everyone. It's so stuck in my head. I don't think I will ever forget this song, and I think it's a fun movie. Not much that I have to say about it. It stars Nicolas Cage. He plays basically himself. He doesn't say a word in the whole movie. Nicolas Cage is just driving with his car when he gets a flat tire. He has no money to pay for it because this small town where he lands does not accept any card payments. So in exchange for people in town to fix his car, he agrees to clean for a whole night Willy's Wonderland, which is an abandoned kind of theme park, kind of theme building. And inside of this abandoned family fun center, there are some older animatronics from the characters, you know, from Willy's Wonderland. And yeah, they are a lot more alive than they should. This is just a fun, bloody film. And yeah, it's just for fun, honestly, but I would rewatch this anytime because I think it's fantastic. And then I watched another movie where Nicolas Cage plays a little bit of Nicolas Cage, which is Renfield. I was really excited about this movie. You guys know I love Dracula, and Renfield is a movie about Dracula in a way, even though he's a secondary character. Our main character is Renfield. He has been serving Dracula and bringing Dracula food for years. He's getting tired of it, and he decides to go to a support group for people that are being abused by their partner. It is a really fun movie. This is another one that has a lot of comedy in it. The action was great. There were times where it was a little bit over the top, but it is bloody, it is fun. I just feel like in this movie they tried to build a little bit too many subplots, and none of them really got the development that they deserve. So at the end of the day, I feel like they were trying to do too much perhaps, but it's still a fun time, especially if you love Dracula, if you love Nicolas Cage. It's a movie you have to see. And then I watched Sisu, which is a movie that I would not always gravitate towards too, but I heard people talking about it and it caught my attention. I watched the trailer and I'm like, okay, I need to watch this movie. The movie follows an old man in Lapland that is digging on the ground when he discovers gold, and he decides to take a trip to the bank to deposit the gold and get cash. But on the trip to the bank, he encounters the Nazis because they are at the moment kind of already retreating. They're leaving the country, but they find him, they find out that he has gold, and we enter an endless cat and mouse game between our old guy and between the Nazis. And the movie is basically a movie about watching Nazis being murdered and butchered in a lot of different ways, and I was there for it. This movie has such a simple plot, but they committed to it, and the movie was extremely entertaining and bloody. You have to be a little bit in disbelief because as the movie progresses, things get a little bit illogical, but it's still such a good time. It was like a splatter western. Fantastic. Next, what do we have? We have To Catch a Killer. This is one that disappointed me a little bit. I was excited about it because the movie looked something like the Zodiac Killer. They did try to give this movie kind of that vibe and those visuals. We are following a case in which the FBI is trying to catch a killer. Someone that on New Year's Eve murdered 29 people with a sniper, and they don't know who this person can be, what are their motives, etc. The movie started quite strong, but then as the movie progressed, it's starting to be a little bit too cliche. The characters were a little bit too cartoony in the sense that they were really like put on a drawers, like, oh, this is the type of detective that, you know, is crazy and sad and lonely, and this is another detective that is supposed to be grumpy and give speeches, and like it was a little bit too over the top for me when it comes to the characters. And I felt like they also gave a lot of things away, perhaps a little bit too early when it comes to the identity of the killer. But anyways, if you love a good mystery thriller about true crime, you might enjoy it. It's just, it was not as good as I had hoped. But yeah, anyways, for one watch, I would still say give it a chance. And then we rewatched, obviously, Boogeyman, because the new one is out. The new one is actually just out now in the Netherlands, and I'm gonna go watch it tonight. The Boogeyman from 2005, I think it was, had people producing it that I like, which, you know, it had Sam Raimi producing it, and it had Kripke producing it. He is responsible for Supernatural and The Boys, and you know, I really like Kripke, and so I find this movie a little bit of a guilty pleasure, I guess. This is not a great movie. The CGI in this movie has not aged well. Let me tell you that. But it is a very, very dark movie, a psychological horror movie about a guy that remembers when he was a kid, he saw something inside of his closet, and he still lives with the fear that he's gonna encounter that darkness again, that he's gonna see again something inside of the closet. He decides to go back to his childhood house and to face his fears, basically, and that is when the boogeyman is gonna come back to hunt him again. So it is a very straightforward story in a way, but how it was told, I thought it was a nice psychological exercise, and you have to be really aware of everything and trying to connect the dots. And like I said, it was a really dark movie. I enjoyed it. I know it's not gonna be everybody's cup of tea because it's not perfect, and like I said, the CGI towards the end did not age well. But it's an early 2000s movie, so I feel like you guys know what you can expect. And last but definitely not least, the last thing that I watched was Influencer. This is a movie that came out on Shudder, and I'm gonna keep my mouth shut because I still have not uploaded my review. I already have my review ready to upload, but yeah, you'll have to wait to hear my thoughts on this one. I know a lot of people have been checking it out lately, so I had to check it out and see how it is. Apart from all of that, we are still currently watching From season 2. If you've never checked out the show, it is on HBO, and I thought the first season was really strong. I am still debating about what I think of season 2, but it is this kind of abandoned town in the middle of nowhere, literally, and people that go by there with their car, they are unable to leave this town. Doesn't matter in which way you drive or walk, you always come back to the town. There is no way out. And also, apart from that, at night there are some creatures that come out and are trying to eat you. So, great place to be. The first season was amazing. The second season, I'm still a little bit conflicted about it, but I want to finish it and see if I loved it at the end or not. And the other thing that we are still watching is Supernatural. We are currently in season 8, so we are getting we're getting there. We are getting to the middle of it because there's 15 seasons. But yeah, still really enjoying it. Still Team Dean, and of course Bobby is another one of my favorites. But yeah, those are all the things that I have been watching. Alright guys, so that is everything that I watched in the month of May. Let me know down below, what have you been watching lately? What would you recommend me? Thank you guys as always so much for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next coffee time. Bye!